Hi everyone, my name is Madeline. I'm super excited to be filming my first YouTube video. I am a talkaholic, so this seems like the perfect platform for me. Nobody can interrupt my flow. I am here today, obviously, if you clicked on this video, you know, giving my experience on the Disney College program. Just for some context, I did the program from January of 2024 to April of 2024. I was a character attendant. I lived at Flamingo Crossings, so I think I was fully immersed enough to be able to give a really good overview. And the reason I wanted to do this video was because, you know, before you go on your college program, first of all, like 90% of the people that do the Disney College program have heard about it through the word of mouth of people making videos like this one. I don't know anybody who just, you know, is born or not born, but like they're like, my grandparents did the program. Like most of us probably watched Emily Enchanted, probably got a little propagandized and went down and did the program. So the point of me making this video is just to sort of give a well-rounded experiential view of what my time was like there, and maybe also try not to be repetitive because a lot of these videos say the same things over and over and over again. I'm gonna try and be super duper duper transparent about my entire experience and touch on the things that maybe people are more hesitant to share on. So I am probably never going to be rehired, and that's okay. But if you're thinking about applying or you have no interest and you're just really nosy like me, either way, stick around and, you know, don't be shy about commenting, subscribing, liking, all that. You can check out all my links in the description as well. I thought the best way structurally to do this video was to kind of break it down, pros and cons, right? I think a nice, easy way to sort of get into the meat and potatoes of the video is starting with the biggest pro and probably the most, you know, talked about fact of what your experience is like doing the Disney College program, which is that obviously as a college programmer, as a full-time cast member, you do get free admission to the parks while you're down there. So that's obviously a major perk. It's pretty amazing that you're able to just link it to your Magic Band and go in anytime you would like. My favorite park personally to explore on my off days was Animal Kingdom. It just had the right ambiance, the right vibe, and also incredible food, underrated in that capacity, I would say. But yeah, that's just like unbeatable. It's like the price of a Disney ticket keeps going up and up and up. So the prospect of being able to just go in for free basically whenever you want is a major selling point to broke college kids who are looking to come down to Florida for a semester. I will say, obviously, you know, it's not all sunshine and churros. I will echo everybody else's sentiment in my con for this one by saying that there are a lot of blockout days. It can be actually pretty difficult to organize a trip to the park because, at least for the semester that I was there, which was January through April, there were a lot of kids coming for spring break. And so, you know, February, there are schools winter breaks, and then March starts the spring breaks, and then April is more spring breaks. And also, I don't know if this is still a problem because from what I'm seeing, they don't care about capacity at all anymore, but we won't go there. When I was there anyway, it could be quite difficult because on your Disney app, there'll be like a cast member block out calendar. And I remember Magic Kingdom was just basically never open to us. It's like the most crowd heavy, traffic heavy park. Obviously, it's the most visited theme park in all of Florida. I think maybe even the world. And so Magic Kingdom was basically impossible to get into, which presented quite a paradox for me because it was my home base park and it was where I worked 90% of the time. So not being able to visit as a guest was pretty funny in hindsight, not at the time. That's also a big part of why I spent so much time at Animal Kingdom, is because it's basically the only park that's never blocked out for cast members. I do love it though. It has nothing to do with whether or not I was never like, ugh, Animal Kingdom. But yeah, those blockout days are something fierce and something serious. And also I would imagine if you're gonna be doing the program over the summer, I would imagine that's something that doesn't pop up as much. But if you are going to be going for the fall, you know, the Christmas, Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party, like all the holiday stuff, I imagine the blockout dates would be getting pretty wild around that time as well. The other con I would say about the free park submission, not that the free park submission is the con, is that they work you to the bone. Now, this is no surprise. Anybody who's had any interest in the DCP, this is mentioned literally in every video. You are going down there to be worked like a workhorse. And so this is something that a lot of people have touched on. I don't want to dwell on it too much, but you are going down there and you work 90% of the time. So then in the time that you do have off, first of all, you're probably spending it getting groceries or visiting a doctor because let's be honest, you are around a million tourists, many of them snotty children all day. So there was a point at which I got bronchitis and sinusitis at the exact same time, like in tandem, and that was brutal. So you're going to the doctor, you're picking up your groceries, you're doing laundry, you're doing your errands, you're getting your nails done, like whatever it is that you need to do. And in the minimal time that you have off, it's sometimes difficult to find and carve out time to go to the parks. And also, sometimes you're so tired from those rigorous shifts that you don't even really want to muster the energy to go. I will say a lot of people have, again, said the sentiment, so I don't want to dwell too much, but there is something to be said for rallying and going and just making the most of it. However, I will say, as somebody, who did my own DCP, don't force yourself to go to the parks if you're really tired, because it's just going to create this like weird relationship to them that is almost unhealthy, where you're like feeling like held hostage, like I have to go to the parks because I have free admission. No, you don't. It's okay to take a day and just relax and recharge your batteries. The other thing that I'm sure many people have touched on about free admission to the parks is the admission is free, but everything else is pretty expensive, especially on a college program budget. So the current salary, I don't know if it's been raised, but when I worked there a year ago, the salary was $16 an hour. Basically 90% of your paycheck goes to your rent, because what you're paying is ludicrous for Central Florida. You're living in an apartment with 3 other people and you're still paying close to $1,000 a week, which is insane. It was like 900 something dollars a week. Now I had a 4x2, so mine would have been a little bit pricier than if you had a 2x2. But honestly, the price difference isn't that, like, there's not that big of a chasm between a 2x2's rent and a 4x2's rent. It's like a $20 difference. So I would say, like, once that huge chunk is eaten out of your paycheck for, rent, if I were working a normal week, I would be lucky to still have $100 in my bank account. Most weeks I didn't. Most weeks after rent, I had less than $100 in my bank account, and then that would have to be used, obviously, for expenses. I didn't have a car, which in hindsight is probably great. It was inconvenient, but for like gas and stuff, I didn't have to pay for any of that. But I did then have to go buy groceries. And so like after that, I have very, very little money left in my paycheck. There's a truck, but I don't know if you can hear it because I'm on this microphone. There's a truck backing up. They wanted to hear about the DCP. But yeah, so very, very little money, which means when you go into the parks, everything is basically out of your price range. The merchandise you can't afford. The food is like, if you get one meal, that's like 2 hours of your time, basically, in terms of salary. So you have to start getting a little frugal, and sometimes that can be not fun. It's like one thing to like wait on the lines and go do the attractions, but if you want to buy like a Mickey waffle or, whatever it is, that can be a major part of your paycheck. And so that can make it a little bit stressful. The other thing I will say is about the free parks admission is Disney is sort of like a family park, and I'm sure most people that are going to the DCP are people who visited Disney with their families before coming to do the program. I know sometimes it's somebody's first time even going to Orlando, but it can be a little lonely. Like solo park days can be fun and you can have, complete autonomy about what you're doing and where you're going. But the flip side of that is that you're by yourself, and sometimes it can be really hard because you're surrounded by people who are with their families. Everybody is there on a family vacation. So when you're feeling homesick and you're missing your family, that can actually, I think, exacerbate it and make it a little bit worse, because you're just like surrounded by people who are with like 14 extended family members and like having the time of their lives, and you're really missing your family. So sometimes just for my like own sanity, I wouldn't go into the parks because I didn't want to see everybody with their sisters or their moms or their dads when I was missing mine, if that makes sense. All right. Pro number 2 is I'm going to give like a role specific one. So again, I was a character attendant, which I can give kind of more details on in a separate video, a little bit more detailed if you guys are interested. But The major pro of being a character attendant is you see so many magical moments. Like, I was super lucky in that regard. I think my role is specifically positioned in a way that you just get to see so many special moments over the course of your program. And most meet and greets, honestly, are not special moments. A lot of meet and greets are parents, ruining it for their kids by trying to give them a hug, give them a hug, give them a high five, give them a, okay, look at the camera, look at the camera, look at the camera. Like, they micromanage the entire exchange and it kind of ruins it for the kid. But there were so many magical moments that I did get to see. I saw, a little boy who got made up at Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique and then came and met Cinderella at Cinderella's royal table and was just the sweetest ever. It's stuff like that that keeps you going, honestly. People who would come to see Mickey, grown women and grown men who would come to see Mickey Mouse and cry. That always made my heart swell, because it's like, I recognize how important the work you're doing is, because it means something to somebody. That person is never, ever, ever going to forget that moment, and you're the one who kind of helped facilitate it. So I always felt really blessed and really honored to be a part of somebody's vacation in that way, because I know what it means to people, because I'm one of those Disney fanatics and it means a lot to me too. And so I was always really excited about all the magical moments that I would see during my shifts. I think that it was honestly the privilege of a lifetime to be able, again, to be a part of people's vacations and their, family memories. That's the other thing too, is like, you're almost watching family lore play out in real time. Like, there are certain moments that happen that you're like, okay, they're going to be talking about that like months, if not years, after they leave the parks. So I had a family come through and they wanted to make a video with Mickey at Town Square Theater, and all of them had memorized the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse hot dog dances of the other characters. So one of them did Pluto, one of them did Goofy, one of them did Minnie, and Mickey did his own dance. And they had like clearly planned this out before they came in, and I filmed it for them. And they were all laughing, and Mickey had the best time. And it was so special. And it was like one of those things that I was like, man, they're going to have that video forever. And they're going to talk about it, years down the road. It was so fun and so special. So stuff like that I got to be a part of and, again, help facilitate, that was like a dream come true and definitely the best part of the job. However, something that they don't tell you about being a character attendant, something that you can't anticipate really, is how isolating it is. If you're working at Pizza Fari, let's say, if you're a quick service food and beverage, if you're merchandise, you're working at a location where you're around other DC peers all the time, and not just DC peers, you're just around other cast members all the time. So it's easier for you to be friends and to sort of build community and build a network while you're down there. Whereas if you're a character attendant, it's basically just you and the character for every shift. And it's a universal rule, which means at Disney you can work at any of the 4 parks because the training is universal across all 4 parks. But that meant that every single time I went into work, I had a different manager, a different leader. It was never the same team of people. I would run into people occasionally, but again, not enough. It would be in passing. It would never be like, we worked a shift together, because you don't. You work just you and the character basically most of the time. The main place that they would put me, ironically, main place they would put me is Main Street USA, Town Hall with Mickey. And in that case, it's literally just you and Mickey in the room. And that's it. And so it was hard to like make friends and build networks and community, because it's just you and Mickey, or it's just you and Cinderella, and you're not, kikiing. I mean, that's not true. Sometimes me and Cinderella would kiki. But like, for the most part, it's like you're just doing your job. And so you weren't really able to like fold shirts together or do stuff that would then lead to somebody being like, do you want to get a drink after work or something like that? So it could be extremely isolating, and you're never on the same team shift to shift. So making friends was a lot harder than I anticipated. And when I would make a friend, coordinating to see them again, whether outside of work or in a work capacity, was very difficult. I'm going to talk about the third pro now, which is housing. Now, I know that there are mixed opinions about Flamingo Crossings, so this is just my opinion, but I will say, as somebody who is born and raised New Yorker and has lived in many an apartment and is used to apartment living, woo, I felt like the Queen of Sheba. I was like, you have an on-site gym, pools, hot tubs. I literally could not believe my eyes when I first. To me, if a place has a bedroom that is like bigger than a walk-in closet, it's already the Taj Mahal. So for me, Flamingo Crossings was literally the fanciest place that I had ever lived. I know a lot of people who do the Disney College program are coming from the middle of the country, so to them it's a downgrade. But for me, I literally felt like Eloise at the plaza. I could not believe my eyes, and I loved living there. I know some people have had problems. I mean, it's Florida, right? So people have bug problems. I never saw a bug while I was there. I was lucky because I was on like the 4th floor, so they would have had to go up quite a ways to reach me in the penthouse. But yeah, I never really had a bug problem. I never had a problem with any of the people that worked at Flamingo Crossings. Everybody was always super nice and accommodating. I always found it so easy. Like, I think when you live in New York, one of the things that really strikes you when you go somewhere else is how living in New York is the most inconvenient thing you could ever do in your life. Everything is the first 20 minutes of Saving Private Ryan. If you go to take something to the mailbox, or just want to ship something, if you want to park a car, if you want to do anything that is seen as banal in any other part of this country, it is a bloody massacre in New York City. So for me, living at Flamingo Crossings I was in that Disney bubble. I was like, this is life, this is living, this is heaven. And I loved the town center. I could just take my wagon that I got, go get my groceries in the town center, put my podcast in. I never had to worry about getting mugged or harassed. It was like, it was the thrill of a freaking lifetime for me to just go with my headphones in at night and never ever worry about being murdered. That was like, again, I think maybe if you didn't like Flamingo Crossings, come live in New York for a year and you'll be, on your knees, worshiping Flamingo Crossings like a deity. Anyway, it was safe, it was clean, it was modern, it was super convenient. The rent was frankly astronomical and a little cruel given that they know what Disney is paying us, but I would still recommend. I thought it was fun. So, like I said, I mentioned this at the beginning, the con of this is just the rent. The con of this is literally just that I would make $987 and then rent would be taken out and I'd have like $50. So unless you're willing to break your back working overtime and basically have no life at all and never get groceries and never do your laundry, you are going to have no money basically all of the time. And I came down with money. I know that it says on the Disney College Program website, they're like, come down with some seed money, because you don't get paid basically for the first 2 weeks that you're there. So they're like, come down with $300-$400, which I did. I think that if I had come down with $2,000, it still wouldn't have done me any good, just because like you're basically working for nothing. It's like indentured servitude. It's like you work for the company and the exchange is that you live in their quarters, but then that also means that you have no money for anything else. I remember I got an eyebrow wax one time, and it was because I had worked a little overtime and I could afford to get an eyebrow wax, and that was like the thrill of my entire program. I was like, I'm gonna wax my eyebrows. So exciting. I'm going to get into another pro. This is a frequently mentioned pro, but meeting people from all over the world is really cool. And I'm from New York, so I would say I live in a very, I'm actually from Queens, New York, which is the most diverse place in the world. And so I am used to being exposed to other cultures and, people from other countries. But I think at Disney, it's just a little bit different because it's not people who have moved here permanently. Usually it's people who are here for a semester or a season. And so they're still kind of fully immersed in, their home country's goings on, happenings. They're not planning to stay kind of for the long haul for the most part. And that can be really cool because it's kind of awesome to hear about like what they're going to do when they go back home, like the way other countries worked. So shout out to my roommate, Elena. Freaking awesome. We shared a bathroom. She was the sweetest, most lovely roommate you could ever hope to have. And she was from Norway. So she worked at the Norway Pavilion at Epcot. And it was just really fascinating. I loved hearing her on the phone with her mom. It was hard because she had like a major time zone difference. So whenever they could find the time, they were always chatting on the phone. I loved hearing she had different products, like beauty products from her country. And I was always like being super nosy and asking about them. And it was just really fascinating to kind of hear about her experience and what America was like in comparison to her home country. And that's the case basically for all of the ICPs that work at Epcot. You know, it was really cool that I got exposed to so many different cultures, even ones that I've honestly never come across in New York. Like, I don't meet many Norwegians in New York, I don't meet many German people in New York. So that was a really interesting and fruitful part of the DCP, I thought. However, the one thing that can be hard, especially if you have an ICP as a roommate, which this is no offense to Elena, who is the damn queen, but ICPs get special perks and privileges that DCP people don't get. So one of those is that they get to bid for their shifts, and they also get normal working hours basically. So my roommate, she would basically work like a 9 to 5. It would vary. So sometimes she'd do a super long shift, she'd go in earlier, or she'd stay later, but it was usually during the day, and it was pretty much a usual like 9 to 5 type shift, give or take a few hours. And for me and a lot of DC peers, what we're doing is we're filling in the gaps of the full-time employees who don't want to work odd hours. So what that means for us is, or for me anyway, most of my shifts were 2 p.m. to midnight or 1 a.m. And I worked at Magic Kingdom, so it was the one that was, you know, open the latest. So if I was closing, then I would stay a little bit later to get all of that done. And so that was kind of rough, to be honest, because I mean, I guess it's fine to like, you know, work it's like you're not doing anything else but working. So I guess the hours don't really matter that much. But for me, first of all, it kind of destroyed my relationship to food when I got home for like 3 months, because I had gotten so used to that schedule of 2 p.m. to midnight that I was used to eating breakfast at like noon and lunch at like 7 p.m. and then dinner at like 2 in the morning, that I had a hard time just cyclically getting back on schedule with my eating when I got home. And the other thing that was hard about it was having a roommate with a completely opposite schedule, like a regular schedule. It meant that when I woke up in the morning, she was already at work. And then when I got home, she was already asleep, getting ready for her next shift. When she got home, I was at work. And so we lived right next to each other. Our bedrooms were right next to each other. And sometimes we would go 2-3 weeks without ever seeing each other or crossing paths, which sucked because she was like one of my best friends on the program. So that was a really hard aspect, was just like, again, it's hard to coordinate and have a life and make friends and build community and networks when your schedules are so all over the place. And like I said, as a character attendant, it's even harder because you're not naturally bumping into people at work. Okay, I'm gonna get into a controversial pro now. My controversial pro is the bus system. I know that there are many people with qualms about the bus system. I do wish that they ran more regularly. They basically run between every like 20 and 40 minutes. It should be more regular than that, I think. However, I will say they were super reliable. I never had a bus come late, basically. They were almost always completely on time, and they never, you know, they always got me where I needed to go. I never had an incident where we had to be removed from the bus. I know some people have had like bad bus experiences where they've like caught on fire and stuff. I never had that. I always had a really good bus experience, and they got me where I needed to go. So, you know, I'm not complaining. That said, the con of that is less about the bus system, and it's more just about not having a car in Florida, is basically like having your legs cut off. I didn't have a car. Again, I'm from New York, so didn't have a car. And it was really difficult. I would have to get Ubers to the only doctor's office that would actually take my insurance in Florida. And it was like 30 minutes away. So then that's like a $40 trip sometimes if the Ubers are like crazy. But even when it is just like a $25 trip, again, that's like more than an hour of my salary. So that was really difficult. It could be really difficult just to navigate around. It's like you don't have the freedom or autonomy to be like, oh, I'm going to go to the beach today. No, you're not. The buses don't go there unless you want to pay for an Uber, and you don't want to pay for an Uber because you have no money. So it could be really difficult to not have a car in Florida. It makes you feel a little bit trapped because the only places that the buses go are to the parks or to a Target and a Walmart. And it's like, if you don't want to go to those exclusive 3 locations, then you're basically stuck in your apartment complex. So that could be really difficult. I would definitely recommend if you have a car to bring it, but also if you don't have one, it's also not the end of the world. Like I managed for 4 months and it was fine. I definitely would never live there permanently without a car, but if you're going down just for a semester and you don't have a car, don't panic. You will be okay. Also, somebody might be able to give you a ride if you make more friends than I did because I was a character attendant. All right, the next pro is a little bit obvious, but I'm still going to get into it anyway, which is just being immersed in the Disney bubble and the Disney magic. There's something really special about being at Disney every day, the bubble of it all. I mean, you get to kind of associate shifts with certain things. Like, I always worked the 2 p.m. to midnight shift at Magic Kingdom, and I was on Main Street most of the time, but sometimes with the princesses at Fairy Tale Hall. And what that meant was I heard the fireworks every night, which was really cool. So now when I hear the Happily Ever After music, it just takes me back immediately to being backstage, eating my lunch, and watching the fireworks from a grassy knoll that was like right behind where our break room was. And that's really cool. That's like a really special memory. I really liked being able to sort of see the behind the scenes of how everything happens, how they create and maintain magic for all the guests. I'm a Disney nerd, so seeing how the sausage was made, a lot of people were like, oh, are you going to be anti-Disney now? Are you going to come home and hate Disney? And I was like, huh? I went and I love it even more than I did before I worked there because the amount of just conscientious thought that goes into every single element of a guest experience from the moment you set foot on property, every single thing that you do and experience is thought out to a T. Like they don't want to miss a beat. So there are so many things that I learned just behind the scenesy things about how that place runs that was honestly just freaking cool. I loved learning about it. I'm a Disney nerd. It was really up my street and I had the best time learning again how they make the sausage there. It just was like surreal sometimes. I will say the con of that one is that sometimes it can manifest itself as some like toxic positivity where, you know, I worked at Magic Kingdom and they have a transfer shuttle bus that brings you to the drop-off point, to the utilidor, the tunnels under Magic Kingdom. And that bus would come and it would say hi-ho on it. And it's like, okay, it's cute. Hi-ho, off to work we go. I'll tell you what, when you're looking down the barrel of, you know, a 12-hour shift, the last thing you're thinking is hi-ho. You're like, get me the out of here. So sometimes the complete immersion in Disney could almost like be like nails on a chalkboard, especially if you were just having a bad day or not the best experience. It's like the last thing that I want to key on right now is Disney puns. I need you to leave me alone. So that can be a con sometimes, but honestly, 90% of the time you're in it and you're having the best time and it's not, you know, you're just expected to create magic no matter what you're feeling or what you're doing. So I would say most of the time people are ready in game and, you know, people don't work there unless they really love Disney. Like, this is the other thing that I try to explain to people, but I'm like, nobody works at Disney for the pay. It sucks. Nobody works at Disney for the benefits. They suck. Nobody works at Disney unless they are so beyond passionate about the company, its legacy, and the guest experience that they are willing to put up with the most egregious shite. Like, I've never met anybody in all my time there. I met people who had been working there for 20 years and had never gotten a pay rise ever. The reason that they did it is because they love their jobs. They love creating magic for the guests. It's really important to them that they're upholding the legacy that Walt created when Disneyland was first opened in the 60s. And so I will say, just shout out to the cast members because they're creating magic regardless of the shit sandwich that is given to them. And I like Bob Iger, but like, he'd do be giving himself a $50 million bonus while everybody's making minimum wage in the parks. Moving on. Yeah, I think just to wrap it up, I'll say, should you do the Disney College program? Yes. If you're curious about it, if you're not sure, just go for it because honestly, it's a once in a lifetime experience. I still have stories now that I am going to hold on to and tell. And it's probably the most interesting thing about me. If you bring it up, it's like the one thing that people have the most questions about. I would say just go for it. Do it. If you're really passionate about it. I have friends who have met their long-term partners on the program. Not me, obviously, but I have friends who moved down there who fell in love with it. I think it's just worth it to take a shot and go for it if you are interested in it, because you never know what could come from it, and you never know what you're going to learn and what you're going to experience. And it's definitely worth it just to quell the curiosity, right? It's better to do it and regret it than it is to not do it and regret not doing it. So if you're curious, go for it. It's magical, it's exhausting, it's unforgettable. It's life-changing, and I want to hear about your experience. So if you have done the DCP, I want to, see your comments. Let me know what your experience was like, what role you had when you were there, and if you relate to any of these points. I would especially love to hear from character attendants, because I feel like we're an underrepresented group on here. But I would love to hear, if you're thinking about applying, if there's any specific questions that you have, maybe that could be a separate video. I don't know. I just wanted to make this video kind of just to start off, because I kind of got into YouTube from watching Disney college program videos. So I'm tripping. But yeah, if you made it this far, my inane ramblings, thank you so much for watching, and I will be back soon. So thank you. I don't know how to end a video except for letting it awkwardly peter out.